Hi everyone, it's Steph and welcome to another video. Well, it's been a bit of a journey, but this is finally the last table runner in the Clasped Warp and Clasped Weft video series. This should have been uploaded late April, however, it's been languishing on my loom for the last couple of months due to my injury. But finally we are done, and this project I've put Clasped Warp and Clasped Weft together in the one table runner. So I've got 4 boucle yarns and I'm trying to figure out what colour combination that I want to put together in the project. I settled on a khaki green, which is 5/2 recycled cotton, and this light pinky brown, which I think is called Cannelle. I was a little bit worried about the colours and whether there would be enough contrast in them, but I thought having one as the boucle, it would actually create some really nice texture in the pattern, so I ended up going with these two. Also, this is a present for my niece who lives with me, and pink and green are her favourite colours, so I think she would like this. My plan was to do Clasped Warp for the first half of the project and then just do the plain colour for the other half, so that the half lengthways towards me is the one that I would do the Clasped Warp for. I just put this string here to get a bit of an idea on making sure that my lines were at least a little bit on a pattern, although having said that, doing the Clasped Warp is really tricky in getting them precise, especially with the boucle, as I found that it really tended to twist on itself. Initially the boucle drove me mad, but once I figured out how to wrangle the yarn so that it didn't twist on itself, it actually ended up being just fine, but it was just a matter of getting used to the high twist in the boucle, which is just a little bit more tricky to work with. So both the yarns are doubled in the reed, so the 5/2 recycled cotton and the 8/2 boucle are both doubled in the warp, and I'll be using them doubled in the weft as well, doing the Clasped Weft on the other plain side. The Clasped Warp pattern I didn't do on every single warp thread. So I did 2 plain khaki green colours and then a Clasped Warp, and then 2 colours and then a Clasped Warp. So it was 2-1, 2-1 all along the first half of the warp, and then the plain, just the plain khaki doubled on the other half. If you want more detailed instructions on how to do the Clasped Warp method, I do have a video that I uploaded earlier in April, and I will link that in the end screen and also in the description for you. So here you can see what it looks like so far. You can see that I'm doing the Clasped Warp and then 2 doubled strands and then the Clasped Warp again, and trying to follow that line but kind of failing as well. So at this stage I put the project aside so I could work on the one-day project, the log cabin face washers, and unfortunately injured my wrist and my thumb. But I then brought it back out after I got out of the cast and had a little bit of physio on my thumb and felt ready, and then I started warping that back up again, and it feels so good to get this one done. So here I'm just winding on direct towards the pegs because it's only a short warp, the length of my dining table, so I actually find it quite easy just to wind towards the pegs in this instance. After winding on, because it was doubled, I didn't have to do any threading, so I'm just tying off in small groups, trying to get the knots all roughly the same length before I lash on. Once that was done, I just lashed on using some scrap yarn and then spread the warp also with some scrap yarn, ready to weave. After I had spread the warp, I just wove in just the plain colour for a couple of inches and then went back and did my hem stitching for the beginning of the weave. So after I'd woven a little bit, I realised that I'd made a warping mistake, and you can see that there's a gap. I've obviously done one extra plain colour in between, and as we go on further you'll be able to see that I kind of did another mistake, but I've decided to call them design choices and continuing on. With the placement of the clasped weft, I'm just taking them every third row, the same as the warp, and taking them up to about 1 centimetre before the clasped warp. So the wefts obviously are horizontal and the warps are vertical, and I've continued that on up through the design. I then kind of went a little bit off pattern and did my own thing for a little bit. I think the end result looks really nice. It kind of reminds me of Art Deco. I loved weaving the rest of this, and it really just brings home to me how much weaving is my happy place, and that I've really missed it in the last 7 to 8 weeks that I haven't been able to weave. So for the rest of the weave, I just relaxed and did whatever I felt like, and really enjoyed weaving. So here you can see my second warping mistake / design choice. So I've clearly missed where I was when I was clasped warping, and we've got this funny little extra bit, but it actually looks really good in the final design. At the end of the weave, I measured out 5 to 6 lengths of the width of the weaving, and snipped off my tail, threaded on a darning needle, and just did my usual 2x2 hem stitch to finish the piece. Once hem stitching was done, I did my new favourite way of cutting off the loom by using the width of a warp stick, marking with a texter and cutting just on the inside of that line, and that gives a nice clean edge, and makes it just a little bit easier when you cut off the loom. And my favourite part is pulling the weaving up and off the loom and finally having a good look at what I created. And you can see here the design is subtle but textured, and it looks really, really pretty in the light. After washing in my washing machine with a little bit of dish soap to get rid of any machine oils from the making of the yarn, I let it dry and then snipped off all of my tails, gave it a good iron, and we are done. As always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for all your likes and thank you for all your kind comments. It really helps me and my channel, and I appreciate every single one of you. I hope everyone has a wonderful day.